Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. First question for Harry and for Charles and Jack.
There you go.
You met at in Pittshanger Village.
Yeah.
What was it like in Pittshanger Village?
I think village is a name that's acquired since becoming a bit nicer. I mean, it was not. It was alright, wasn't it? I mean, it's kind of nice, but it's suburban London. Just quite a long way from the centre of town. Not a huge amount to do. Like we used to hang out when we were at primary school together.
Yeah.
Go to the park. You know, that kind of stuff. It was nice, yes, and it's a nice place to grow up, but it's not particularly interesting, to be honest. I mean, it's where we sort of ended up hanging out just because it was where we lived.
Yeah.
And
The most interesting thing about it is it's on the edge of London.
yeah, there might be like one more interesting thing about it. There's nothing more interesting.
It's quite a nice fire station near Pittshanger on Uxbridge Road. I like that fire station.
There you
Very
go.
Nice fire station.
Nice fire station. And how did the two of you meet?
And then Harry and I met at secondary school.
Oh, sorry, I mean.
In school, and our parents were friends, and we live like 2 minutes from each other, so it would be hard not to meet.
Were you already into music when you met each other, or?
I think when we were 4, we probably were into nursery rhymes.
Then the recorder.
I have a great photo actually of myself and Charles.
Oh yeah.
Where we are, I think 5 years old, doing. It must have been like the music in like primary school play, like Christmas play or something.
Yeah.
And I'm playing some wood blocks, and Charles is playing a cymbal. And that's probably the oldest photo I have of the two of us. But yeah, we sort of grew up together. I would say we became really good friends actually after we finished primary school, when I think that's when you really make the kind of friends that you end up having for quite a long time, when you're sort of 13, 14 and 15. And then that's also the same sort of time that we were hanging out with Harry.
And when did you enter the picture?
Well, I went to the same school, secondary school as Jack, but also I sort of met Charles through mutual friends, I guess.
Yeah.
We had a lot of friends. Charles had a lot of friends who went to our school, so we just sort of hung out, didn't we? When we were 14.
Yeah.
And so I remember meeting you in a coffee shop, actually, Charles.
Yeah. Starbucks next to Ealing Broadway Station.
There you go. That's where it is. They should put a plaque up there.
I remember it.
That's where White Lies started.
Remember it like it was 10 years ago.
Was it for you? Were you into music back then with the three of you, or was it just something else that made you friends?
I think me and Charles all of us shared music together, really. Me and Charles played in a band probably for about, I don't know, 3 months before we started playing with Jack.
Yeah, doing covers.
Doing covers with a friend of ours called Giles on guitar.
Yeah.
But I think we always bonded over a love of music.
Yeah.
So I certainly remember sitting in Charles's bedroom and listening to a lot of music constantly. Yeah.
And what sort of music did you listen to together?
Oh, I don't know.
We listened to a lot of. I remember listening to a lot of like Mystery Jets at that time.
Oh yeah.
It's a band that we were really into. When we were young teenagers, but also. I think Talking Heads is probably the first band we bonded over.
We really loved the Stills. We used to listen to the Stills a lot. Their album called Logic Will Break Your Heart from the Stills. We used to listen to that record again and again and again.
Dogs Die in Hot Cars as well.
Yeah, Secret Machines.
Yeah. All sorts.
Okay, all sorts of music. Well, there was a band previous to White Lies, so I won't mention it.
Well, there was a band previous to White Lies called Fear of Flying, but there was a band previous to that called The Flow. And there's a band previous to that called... What were we called? What was Arson Charles's band called? We must have had a name.
Like Death on Wednesday.
Yes.
Death on Wednesday.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah. Yeah,
We've had a lot of bands.
Yeah, and I think it's a great, it all goes into the experience of learning how to be good musicians,
And if you look back on certain bands, is there a band that you like more than maybe others? Or is it just the closer you get to the White Lies, the better the bands become?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a It's just a learning curve, the whole thing.
Oh
I mean, White Lies has been a learning curve as well, to be honest. We've got better, I think, throughout the time we've been White Lies. And yeah, we're always improving. We're still young.
And the songs that you wrote for the other bands, were they good? Maybe certain songs? Maybe?
No, not really.
Well, by the end of Fear of Flying, there was definite improvement, which I think sort of sparked the idea of White Lies and starting a band where we could kind of ditch all our old material and do something completely new.
And yeah, for the last few Fear of Flying songs we wrote were the first White Lies songs, weren't they? So yeah, like we definitely struck a sort of point in Fear of Flying whereby we thought, actually, this is a lot better than everything we've done before. We should make this something new. And
Why? Why make it something new? Why couldn't you go further?
Because I think otherwise you're always tied to the songs that you made when you were.
Okay.
We didn't want to be tied for the rest of our lives to the songs that we made when we were 15 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I think 19 was a good moment to start your real band, proper band.
Okay. But if you listen to the songs on the first album, you still think, well, this is White Lies. This is what we.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the first album defined White Lies. I think with the help of Ed and Max, the two guys who produced that record, we defined the sound of the band on the album. I think actually we had the songs before we went in to record the album. Obviously, we had 5 anyway, but the real sound of the band was defined in the studio in ICP. It wasn't even. I don't think it was even defined before that. Like, we had a few rough ideas here and there, but really it came out of being in the studio with Ed and Max.
Is there one point, one song, that you said, well, that's maybe when we really defined the sound?
I think the song that defined the sound of White Lies is probably Death. I think it moves through so many different sections and so many different moods, and that's something that's so typical of White Lies songs, I think. But also the guitar parts and the way that the drums and the bass work together, and the fact that it's just a big rock song, I think, and it marries so well the sort of the idea of a big rock sound with kind of almost quite obvious pop music, and the chords in Death are so obvious, they're so plain almost, but and that's something that I think is typical of the best White Lies songs, and I think it definitely is a defining song of the band, certainly on the first record and that time. Yeah.
Was it, when you wrote that song, was it easier after that song to write the songs that you wanted to have? Or?
No, not really. It's always the way, like, Death was one of the other songs, like, Unfinished Business and Death on our first album.
First 2 songs.
Were probably the first, Farewell to the Fairground was the very early one as well, but those 2 songs are probably one of the first 2 songs we wrote. And as typical of the best songs you write, I think, because it's the same on this album with First Time Caller. Like, they take, like, literally, you're struck by a moment of inspiration and you write the whole song in like 20 minutes, and then you can never recapture that spark and try. You can't ever force that kind of thing to happen. It just happens. There's no explanation really as to why. But so some songs you really have to graft at, but Death was one of them that we didn't. I mean, we wrote it in one rehearsal, I think.
Yeah.
Even all the guitar parts and everything, it was just everything just came together at a beautiful moment.
And if you say that that song defined, or well, the first album defined the sound that you have, the second album, what did that do for you?
It was a sort of exploration of new ideas that we wanted to try out, and new production that we wanted to work on. But there are some songs in there which stick to the same sort of White Lies idea. There were some really successful songs on that record, and then some which probably weren't as successful, but it was just a different time, I think. A different record for a different time in our...
I think there's 3 songs on the second album, Bigger Than Us, Streetlights and Power and the Glory, which really do fit in with what White Lies is, although they're very different to a lot of the stuff on the first album.
Come Down as well in some ways, as a ballad is strong.
I think melodically those songs really sit well with how White Lies songs are written, even if they're recorded in quite a different way. But yeah, I think the second album was just a time of. It was a time that we were listening to a lot of music, which was very big and heavy on production. You know, like perhaps less focused on the songwriting, which is fine. And some of our favourite bands make albums like that. Like they'll go into the studio and without any songs written and wait for the inspiration from the sounds that they're creating to make the album. And I think that's something that we really wanted to do on the second album, and something that I'm really glad that we did, because I think that it's probably the most interesting sounding record that we'll ever make. It's just less focused on the songwriting, I think.